right, everybody good this morning? Yeah? Everybody happy? Okay. No, I don't want that. All right, so I have a couple of questions for you. But first, hang on just 1 second. Get this up. Boom. All right, so picture. First thing we need to do is picture. Everybody put their arms in the air. Okay? Hang on. If I can figure this out. iPhones are hard. There we go. All right. Everybody say, good morning, Silicon Valley. Good morning, Silicon Valley. Beautiful. Okay, who can tell me something about the history of Silicon Valley? Anybody know anything about the history of Silicon Valley? What?
It was a giant orange field with fruit everywhere in the 60s.
That is correct. What else? Yes, sir.
From Bell Labs, the scientist who invented transistors, where I worked myself.
Yeah, what was his name?
Shockley.
Right, William Shockley.
Yeah.
And what kind of guy was he?
He was a scientist, of course, and he was the leader in that group who
Yeah.
developed the
He was also a total asshole.
No, that's a different one. The
So
science
you guys
is more important.
probably know the story that Bill Shockley, founder of Shockley Semiconductor, hired all the top scientists from the East Coast to come to work for him. And a couple of years in, the top scientists decided that he was totally miserable manager. And so they quit their jobs. They walked out, 8 of them. They walked out, quit their jobs, and met up at the bar at the Cliff Hotel and ended up founding Fairchild Semiconductor.
Yes.
And William Shockley said, you guys can't quit your jobs. I'm going to sue your ass because when you guys came to work for me, you signed a non-compete agreement, and you are not allowed to create a new startup that competes with me. Right? Turns out that under California law, non-compete agreements are unenforceable. And this turns out to be a big factor in the development of Silicon Valley. Is that in Silicon Valley, you can quit your job on a Friday and on Monday create a new company that competes with your boss, and that is your right protected under California law. All right, so I'm going to go with the fruit as being the winner of the book. Ow! There we go. Sorry? Arches?
Orchid farms.
Orchid farms.
Orchids.
Yeah, it was fruit. Believe me, I was here. It was fruit. It was all fruit orchards and apricot orchards. In high school, I worked in the summer picking apricots, 32 cents an hour. All right, so I'm Bret Waters. I have been in Silicon Valley my entire life. I grew up in Los Gatos, so I've been in Silicon Valley my entire life. I've been founder and CEO of 3 software companies. Today, I teach entrepreneurship at Stanford. I teach 2 courses. One is about getting from a startup idea to product market fit, and the other one I teach is getting product market fit to scale. This is 2 very different processes. And I also coach startup CEOs at the Miller Center for Global Impact. And I wrote a book a couple years ago. What's your name?
Greg.
Greg. Which Greg will quickly read in the next 5 minutes and then pass it around. And you can find it on Amazon. Okay, so Silicon Valley, pretty amazing place, right? The economic output of this one valley is larger than most entire countries of the world. Pretty amazing place. I was 17 years old when Steve and Steve shipped the Apple I. Pretty cool. Did not come with a keyboard or a monitor, so you had to wire it up to a TV and your own keyboard in order to use it. So I was 17 years old when the Apple I came out. Today, of course, it's all about AI. And so I've had the unique opportunity to have a front row seat being in Silicon Valley all the way from that to that. And a whole bunch of things in between. So for the past couple decades in Silicon Valley, we've used this kind of standard startup playbook, right? It's Steve Blank, it's Eric Ries, it's Paul Graham, co-founder of Y Combinator. This is basically the playbook that we've used for a couple decades. Now, create a startup, build some MVPs, build some prototypes, and then build some MVPs, get the product market fit. Kind of standard prototype we use for a couple decades now with some very, very good success. But in the last 2 years or so, AI has just changed everything, right? We're coming up on, I think, 4 years since ChatGPT came out, but it's really the last 2 years or so that just, the landscape has just completely been altered. And so the question is, how will the standard startup playbook change in this new era? How will the standard startup playbook be different in this new era? So I'm going to run you through 7 quick thoughts about how the playbook will be different. The first is that your technology is no longer your moat, right? That we've been through this period where the idea was that I'm developing deep technology. I've had 5 engineers working on this for 2 years. They've written 130,000 lines of code, and that's what's going to protect me from competitors. That's over now, right? Whatever you build, especially software, whatever you build, a competitor could reproduce in a weekend with Claude code in a gallon of coffee, right? So your technology is no longer your moat. I think increasingly the founder is the moat. What makes you differentiated is the founder and the relationships that the founder has. The second thing is that narrow is the new big. So, you know, Salesforce is a success because Salesforce built a product that was applicable across many different sectors and many different geographies, right? And that you know, building those big horizontal platforms. What? I do not want to use the microphone. So building those big horizontal platforms was the model, right? But today, with Claude Code and the rest of these tools, you know, the ability to produce software that is for specific verticals is the new big thing, I think. Distribution beats technology. I already said that technology is not your moat. My friend Tim Connors, venerable Silicon Valley venture capitalist, he said to me one day, he said, people talk about product market fit, but what we really should talk about is product market distribution fit. Because many products, many companies have developed great products, but they never found the right distribution to sell it through. So increasingly, I think distribution matters in this new era. Outcome-based everything. So people have been saying SaaS is dead. It's not exactly right, because SaaS, software as a service, right? Well, Claude is software delivered as a service, right? So it's not that SaaS is dead. It's that the old subscription model is dead. The model of, you know, charging $10 per month per seat, regardless of the outcomes, that's what's dead. Because with agentic AI, we have the ability to charge by outcomes. And that's a pretty big thing. We've also been through this era where if you showed growth, if you showed user growth, don't worry about the revenue. If you, well, you show user growth, you'll get the attention of the venture capitalists, and we'll figure out monetization later. That's over, right? Get some revenue traction now. And I love to point out that a $2 million ARR company with 4 people is a lot more interesting to investors today than a 20 million ARR company with 40 people, right? What matters is the ability to get revenue going with low headcount. That's what matters. Build agents before hiring employees, right? An awful lot of startups have died because they've hired too fast. Hiring too fast is a very common way that startups die because humans are expensive, right? And so now, before you do any hires, think about, could this be done by an agent, right? Or is this something that requires humans? And, you know, hire humans when you need them. But the path to success is using agents for everything it doesn't need humans. And lastly, fundraising matters less than ever before. In 1999, I raised a $5 million first round for my amazing new startup. We spent the first $1 million just buying and configuring servers, right? Today, that's 10 minutes on AWS and you're done. The capital needs required to create a company today are just dramatically different. Now with agentic AI, they're even lower because you don't need so many humans. And so the ability to focus on building a great company, instead of spending instead of spending months going up and down Sand Hill Road, instead focus on building a great company. You know, I think that's the new path to success. So those are some of my thoughts. As I said before, I think the playbook for creating a successful startup is being rewritten right now. Actually, you know what? It's already been rewritten. And so the founders who realize that will be the winners moving forward. Thanks, guys. I'd love to stay in touch with you. Find me on LinkedIn. Thank you.